Good morning, comic book fans. Welcome back to Comics in 5 Minutes. I'm your Elvino Shorty. I'm going to be discussing High on Life today, which is a video game adaptation into a comic book, but this is what I'm actually a little bit more aware of. And we're going to talk about an awful lot of stuff. Mostly we're going to be talking about the structure of jokes, basically, with setup and subversive results leading to a punchline and humour. We're not going to only talk about that, but honestly, it's probably going to take quite a bit of it. Before we get to that, we're going to talk about the artwork and the look of it, which I genuinely like. Like I said, I'm a bit more aware of this video game. I never played it for reasons which will become obvious down the line, but I did like the visual stylizations on it. I like the fact that it was cartoony, but also more than mildly disturbing. Never fell quite into the creepy cute kind of thing. I don't think the cuteness was really there. It was over the top cartoony in the way that automatically becomes unsettling, and then they just turn the volume up as much as they could on that. And I like it. I think it kind of stands out in terms of visual media where you've got a video game rather than a short form animated story, or even a comic book. There needs to be a little bit more room for unsettling movement in characters, and the action needs to be able to flow quite nicely. I always liked it. And the comic book actually does a really good job with that. It keeps an awful lot of things which are odd and unusual about it, and the characterization of individual people within the world are also really, really cool. There's a nice moment where we have like the main character who is a silent protagonist in a fully body-encompassing costume, but still has character beats because of how they stand and what they do with their hands and their arms. It looks really, really good. Unfortunately, comic books, being a visual medium, they do still rely on writing, and at this point it does lose me quite considerably. The reason I never played the video game is even the trailer kind of showed me that I'd probably find the game quite annoying, and then I watched some people actually playing it, and I was 100% confirmed of that. I find the sense of humour where it's the same style of joke or the same comedy beats repeated over and over with repetition kind of as part of it, but also then sometimes just out explaining a joke to you. I find you've got to be really good at what you're doing to make that work. Don't get me wrong, some people out there are really good at this. Stuart Lee is a comedian who does fantastic riffs on repetition. He has a fantastic way of hammering home a point and using repetition to do so, to the point that even people who like his stuff might find it a little bit groany at times, but you know the payoff's there. At a certain point where the repetition becomes part of the joke and you realise what he's doing, and he's a master of what he does. He's famous for doing that kind of thing. And when it comes to explaining jokes, I think there are stand-up comedians who can do that. Off the top of my head, I'm thinking of Steve Coogan. Usually when he's playing a character, and that character not being a stand-up comedian, they actually explain what they're doing in their process for it, and that kind of way of making it part of the setup and then subverting it into the joke makes the punchline funny as well. But again, Steve Coogan, master of what he does. The writer of this, and I think the writer of the video game, I don't think they quite have that level of skill, or at least not a way of executing it in a way which is as satisfying. And it's frustrating because the style of humour from the video game obviously is successful for some people. As a successful video game, a lot of people bought it, and it's inspired by TV shows and cartoons which people really like as well. I would like to have potentially seen something different from a comic book where the storytelling is different and the timing needs to be different for it. But if they're marketing to people who played it and liked the video game, then they're kind of stuck into that mindset. They kind of have to just keep going with something that they expect to work, even though again, as personally, I don't particularly like it, but I think it also isn't the best way to do it in a visual medium like a comic book as opposed to a video game. It's not to say the writing is terrible from start to finish. The humour didn't work for me. I don't think they quite got how you do set up a punchline. But there's some really good moments in here. When it comes to the guns, we have like a whole variety of different traits you can do with it, and one of my personal favourite things was one of the guns doesn't fire bullets, but fires murder babies. And that is just a brilliant concept straight away, and they do have some limited but quite tight fun with that. The actual story itself is pretty cool as well. Like I say, we've got a character who's, I think, carrying on from the video game. I've not played it, so I don't know. Who then has to have, like, higher stakes to deal with, and we get through flashback the fact that we're going to be seeing a revenge story from the other side of things. Somebody's going to be coming to get revenge on humanity rather than the white male fantasy of getting revenge. And again, I quite like that. That's a subversive thing, and I think it could be really effective because we are going to see a different take on it from a different point of view, and I think there's just humour inherent in that. There isn't humour inherent in the fact that there's a difference between target as a story in the world and then target. But the one that's spelt with IT at the end is because they're guns. Like, I didn't need that explaining to me. But then there's some other fantastic visual gags. The timing, for instance, is done really, really effectively. And when we do get to violent action sequences, the violence is so over the top and so ludicrous that you can't help but find it amusing, especially when it is creepy cute. And I know it's not quite that, but the oddly unusual and unsettling guns doing the damage. It works in so many ways, but I feel like the fact that it's tied into the style of humour that was present in the game, is to its detriment, and I do feel bad about that. But anyway, that's enough about that. I've got another thing to review tomorrow, which is another one that's on my pull list. So who knows? I might love it, I might hate it. Let's see how it goes. Until then, look after you two, everyone. Stay safe. Bye.